Saltimbocca literally means jump in the mouth in Italian. And once you make it, you'll understand why they came up with that name. Welcome to Actually Italian. I'm Sal, and I'm on a mission to help you cook authentic regional Italian cuisine. Today we're focused on Rome, and this is one of its most iconic dishes, the Saltimbocca. Go to any trattoria in Rome and you're likely to find this on the menu. It's a classic second course. Italians eat in generally 2 or 3 courses. First course would be pasta or soup, and the second course is usually meat or fish. This is a great second course entree to serve with a vegetable of choice. The one difference in today's recipe though is usually it's made with veal, and today I'm going to use chicken just to kind of lighten it up a little bit. So let's dive right in and see what we need to do. I'm slicing up the chicken breast first just so we can get it nice and thin, and it'll be tender. As I mentioned before, traditionally this isn't just made with veal. I mean, in most of the restaurants where you get it in Rome, it'll likely be veal, but you will also see chicken, even pork loin. So whatever way you want to make it is fine. As long as the slices are nice and thin and tender, then this is going to work. But I just wanted chicken today just to make it a little bit lighter, a little bit more, kind of easier to make too. I want to lightly pound this out so that way everything's kind of the same thickness, and to give it a little bit more tenderness. So I'm using some parchment paper here, and I'm just going to fold it over like this and give it a very light pound. We don't have to do this hard. If you were using veal or pork, you'd want to use the tenderizer side, but we're just using the flat side. We're ready to assemble, so we've got our pounded out chicken, and we're going to layer some prosciutto on top. Prosciutto is very key, so you have to use some good prosciutto here. Normally you don't cook prosciutto in Italian cuisine, but this is traditional. We are going to cook it. Even though we're cooking it, it's going to get crispy, and you're going to lose some of the kind of characteristics of a fresh prosciutto, you do still want the good stuff. It should be delicate, you know, it shouldn't be a very strong prosciutto, because once it cooks, it is going to get, it's going to get very salty. So we want it to have a delicate flavor. Prosciutto from San Daniele is pretty easy to find at this point in just about any place where you're going to be able to find prosciutto in a supermarket or Italian grocer. In my opinion, it's the better prosciutto, better than prosciutto di Parma, because it's a little bit sweeter and it's not as salty as prosciutto di Parma. I also live about 40 minutes from San Daniele del Friuli, so I'm a little bit biased about this. If you can only get prosciutto di Parma, that's totally fine too. Just make sure that you get fattier piece of it, because that fat is really essential to the dish. It's going to melt into the sauce and make it even richer and give it extra flavor. We're going to need that richness because we're using chicken instead of veal or pork. It's on the lighter side, we'll need that extra flavor. Now sage is the last of the important ingredients here, the crucial ingredients. So we just want 1 leaf on each one, and that's it. Sage is a strong flavor, and it's going to permeate the whole dish in the sauce and everything. So we don't need to chop it up. We don't need a lot of sage. Just 1 leaf per piece, and that's going to be enough. Now we'll lightly salt the side without the prosciutto and the sage. The prosciutto is going to be very salty. We don't need a lot of salt here. So just on this one side, and that's going to be salty enough. To get the sauce nice and creamy, we need to dredge these in flour. We're only dredging the other side without the prosciutto and the sage. And the reason for that is that if we get the prosciutto and the sage with flour on it, when it cooks, it's going to get a little gummy on that side, and we want it to stay nice and crisp. So we're just doing the one side because of that. And that's going to give us plenty of flour to thicken the sauce, because this isn't going to be a thick gravy. It's just going to have like a little bit of creaminess to it. So now we'll head over to the stove and we'll get cooking. This is going to come together very quickly. I've got a pan over medium-high heat with a little bit of olive oil. I'm going to gently lay the prosciutto side down with the sage first. We want to get that crispy because the texture is important in this. So we'll put that down, and it doesn't need to cook for long. just like maybe 2 minutes aside. I'm going to give it a press too to make sure that prosciutto and sage sticks there. You could use toothpicks if you want, but once this all cooks like that, it's going to come together fine. The smell of that prosciutto right now is just amazing. So checking it now, yeah, it's pretty crispy. We're gonna flip it now. You can see a little bit of color on the pan there too. That's what we want. Oh, that looks nice. So you get the sage nice and crispy. See how it sticks in there? You didn't even really need the toothpick. So all these things are coming together nicely here. We've got some of these little bits of brown from the prosciutto and the chicken kind of coming together there. That's going to create a little bit of sauce. And you can see that the fat in the prosciutto literally just melted away. That's here now. That flavor is here. So we just need a couple more minutes just on this other side just to give it some color, to get a little crispy. And we're going to take this out of the pan. Let's give this a look. It's starting to get a little color on the other side. We just need another minute there, then we'll take it out. We're basically going to cook these through, but we do have to put them back in the sauce. So if they're not cooked through at this point, it's totally fine. It'll finish cooking in the liquid. I took the chicken out. It's pretty much done. And we're going to add the white wine now. Very carefully, I'm going to put this in. It's going to bubble up. We want to scrape all those brown bits off of the bottom here, because this is going to make like a sauce. We're not adding any stock or anything to this. It's simply just the wine, and we're even going to just put a little bit of water in. I've seen plenty of recipes where they're using, you know, Marsala wine or something else, just white wine. You can use Marsala, but try it this way the first few times you make it, because this is a delicate dish. You want to taste all of the flavors of the prosciutto, of the chicken, of the sage. If you use Marsala or something similar, it's going to be very overpowering. That wine has really turned almost into a syrup, so we have to get some water in there now. Just a little bit, just enough to make this liquid again. Then we're going to add all the chicken right back. So if it hasn't cooked through, it's going to continue cooking now. Those pieces that might need a couple more minutes. But really, this is going to help to thicken the sauce, because there's still a little bit of flour on the chicken. So kind of move it around, and we can see. Take a look at the color there. That's just from, there's no chicken stock in there. That's just from the prosciutto. It's from the brown bits on the bottom. So we already know that this is going to taste good. We didn't have to add a lot to this. We'll just spoon a little bit over the top, and we'll let this continue to cook. I'm going to check it for seasoning now too. Even though the prosciutto is salty and we did salt the chicken, we might need a little bit. It does need a little bit of salt, but I'm going to do that after, because what we're going to do in a couple of minutes, we're going to take the chicken out once again, and I'm going to add some olive oil to this, and we're going to make like an emulsion. We're going to make it even a little more saucy. Almost forgot too, we've got some of the drippings from the chicken I want to pour in here. We don't want to waste that. That's going to add more flavor. Oh, this smells incredible. Give it another taste too, because now it's reducing a little bit, so the seasoning might actually be okay. Wow. All the flavors really come through. Again, that's the key thing with keeping things simple. I can taste the sage, I can taste the prosciutto, I can taste the chicken, and I get that acid from the white wine. It's not sweet. All right, we're going to take these out, and then I'm going to turn the heat off, and I'm going to add some really good olive oil. Turn the heat off. I'm just going to add roughly a tablespoon of olive oil here. You could use butter for this too, but I want to taste that olive oil. So I'm just giving it a mix, kind of vigorously. If I shake it too, it's going to kind of come together. It's going to create like an emulsion. Now it's nice and silky, a little shiny. This has really come together nice. I'm going to give it a little bit of salt and we're good to go. We'll plate it up. Let's take a second and admire the beauty of this dish. Not only does it look great, and this is what it would look like if you were in Rome at a trattoria, but it took 15 minutes to make this, and it just looks amazing. So this is a great weeknight meal that can come together very quickly, but imagine this for date night. If you're trying to impress somebody, your date, and you don't want anything complicated to cook, 15 minutes and you've got this. It's beautiful. Take a bite, I'll let you know what it tastes like. All the flavors are really clean, beautiful. We've got the taste of the prosciutto. Another thing I'd like to say is I didn't cook it super crispy. We wanted a little bit of that fresh prosciutto flavor too. So it has that crispiness, so that extra saltiness, and it still has like that flavor of prosciutto. Tastes great. The sauce is really the star of the show because it's not really a gravy, but it has that kind of creaminess to it. We've got the acid from the wine, and the thing that brings it all together is that olive oil that I put at the end. You should always have a good bottle of olive oil for this part of your recipe. You don't cook with it, but you finish the dish with it. Again, you could use butter for this and it will give it that nice kind of creaminess, but you already have the creaminess from the flour. So now we add that flavor, herbal quality of the olive oil, a little bit of pepperiness too. It really brings this whole thing together. You can taste each individual ingredient when you use regular white wine instead of Marsala. Beautiful dish, love it. Now in Rome, you typically either get a salad as a side dish or more typically some sauteed greens, some sauteed spinach, maybe some Swiss chard. So if you're looking for a good side dish with that, that would still be traditional. That's a good go-to. It's also quick. It only takes a few seconds to saute up some spinach. I gotta dig in and I'll see you next time.